Right, good morning. Thanks a lot for joining us wherever you are in the world. My name's James Ling. I'm working for Greenovate Europe. We're a not-for-profit network dedicated to sustainable innovation, and we're the proud partner in the HOOP project, who's hosting today's webinar. HOOP's a Horizon 2020 project looking to boost innovation in a circular bioeconomy in Europe's cities and regions. Hopefully you already know a bit about the project, but if not, you're going to learn a little more today. So today we're hosting a webinar as part of a 4-part series we're organizing this month. We're now already on the 3rd installment, and the final one is coming up next week. The recording of the previous ones is online, and obviously you're very welcome also to join us again in 1 week's time. So just a note about today's webinar. It's being recorded like the previous ones. Also, the slides will be shared, so no stress about that. As attendees, you're in listen-only mode, but we would really like to hear your questions for our speakers. We have time allocated during the webinar for a question and answer session, so please don't be shy with your questions. We will answer as many as possible during the webinar. And that's all I wanted to say by way of introduction. We don't have a lot of time this morning, so we're going to get straight on with the agenda. So today we have 2 speakers, and first I'm going to introduce Miguel Angel Suarez from CETENMA, the coordinating partner of the HOOP project, who's going to tell us a bit about the project development assistance organized within the HOOP project and how this has boosted some urban circular bioeconomy projects. So Miguel Angel, when you're ready, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, James, for the presentation. I will share my screen. Can you see the screen?
Yeah, we're just waiting for it to get on full screen. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, Jorge. Thank you very much to all of you attendees that have come to this webinar series organized by HOOP. This special project about the development of urban circular bioeconomy projects. And today we are going to talk about the HOOP project development assistance. I am Miguel Angel Suarez Valdes from the Technological Center of the Energy and the Environment in Cartagena in Spain. We are a specialist and we work on renewable energies, environmental technologies, and circular economy. We are the project coordinator of the Horizon project HOOP, but also we have been of biowaste and the project Fair Play. And we are very active in or related with renewable energies and with circular economy. This is who we are in CETENMA. But let's start with the point. The main topic of HOOP is urban circular bioeconomy. Why? Because as we see, one of the main fractions that we have in the municipal waste is a huge amount of organic fraction. There are a lot of bio-waste, both in the municipal waste, but also in garden waste, urban wastewater sludge, and specific streams, like for example, used cooking oils and spent coffee grounds. This has a huge effect on the greenhouse gases emissions. It has a big effect on the lack of circularity that there are in the cities, and it has a high impact, especially since the beginning of this year that is compulsory to have the separate collection of urban biowaste in all the cities and regions of Europe. So this is the problem, and the solution is that there are a series of technologies and there are a series of methods for treatment that can transform the problem, the biowaste, into a resource. And not only a simple resource, but a high-value resource by the production of bioproducts that can come back into the city and close the loop as it was done in the nature before. But The development and the deployment of urban circular bioeconomy normally finds challenges. We have seen along different European projects that there are challenges. So how to unlock the investments in urban circular bioeconomy? And here is the origin of the HOOP project that builds up on the experiences of 3 horizon projects related with urban circular bioeconomy, value waste, waste up, and scalable. And the solution, the idea, is to provide project development assistance to 8 territories, 8 cities and regions around Europe, so that with this assistance, they can be unlocked investments in these cities for the valorization of urban biowaste and sludge into bioproducts. This builds on the experience and the expertise of 15 technical partners with a total of 22 partners in 9 countries. As you see in the timeline, HOOP project is almost about to finish. We have just 4 months left. And I'm going to talk about the experiences and lessons learned and about the methodology that we have followed. As I mentioned, HOOP is not a regular project. HOOP is not focused only on the technology, but is focused on the cities and the regions. We have 8 lighthouse cities and regions showing the diversity in Europe, from sizes, from economy, from climate. Almeida in the Netherlands, Bergen in Norway, Western Macedonia in Greece, Porto in Portugal, Münster in Germany, Albano, Italy, Murcia, Spain, Kuopio, Finland, that show a whole range of scenarios that we have. This approach, in which the city is the protagonist and the catalyst of the circular economy, is also the approach that has the Circular Cities and Regions initiative. So HOOP is like the first project on that initiative. But we are not just staying on the 8 cities and regions from the lighthouses. Is that we have a replicability strategy so that the learnings that we have and the knowledge that we generate is expanded to a network of now there it says 111. We are almost in 117 members of cities and regions around Europe. So this is the starting point. Now we are going to see what have we done and how we have done it, how we have managed this new approach to provide project development assistance. The first point is to know the context, the city and the region and the technologies. For building this concept, we created governance bodies called the local HOOP committees that gather together the technical partners, not only from a technological point of view, but also involving other multidisciplinary teams like financial, like public procurement, like business models, together with key staff from the cities and the regions, so that in that framework, being together, the cities and the technical partners, we can share information, we can exchange knowledge, we can discuss and take the decisions so that the projects can go. One important finding that we had was that even though at the beginning we had a city approach, having the local HOOP committee on city level, it had to evolution into project level, because in a same city, there could be projects with different characteristics that had nothing to do one with the other, so that on the level of governance, finally it evolution to project level. Then, the first point is to understand the context, is to know the city. And for that, we performed the urban metabolism analysis, which provides an overview of the inputs and the outputs of the bioflows that they are going to the city, understand what inputs there are, understand also what are the biowaste generated, the streams of wastewater, understand how is the system for management of biowaste, understand what is the economy inside the borders of the city. We did baseline studies to understand what is the starting point, because we could see that there were cities and regions in different level of development of the circular bioeconomy, because some of them they were very advanced and others had not even started the separate collection. So this is a first point to understand and to prepare the strategy. Then the second point is to understand what are the technologies. We did a study of the state of the art of technologies for producing bioproducts from urban biowaste, from wastewater, from also biological byproducts, giving a description of the technologies, the bioproducts that can be obtained. This portfolio had, by the way, 25 technologies, and assessing what is the level of maturity of all of them, and also making an assessment from a multidisciplinary point of view to understand the characteristics of each of the technologies. We found that it was not only just compost and biogas what we could get. There were a whole range of market sectors involved: chemistry, agriculture, with a special attention to fertilizers. This is a very important market sector in this sense. Nutrition, cosmetics, also construction, polymers. And here, very briefly, is a map of the possibilities that we can have with the different streams that are arriving to the cities and the regions. Then, now that we know the city, now that we know the technologies, it comes to the decision. You see here in this crossroads is that we need to take the decision. It's important to consider the background. It's important to consider what is the strategy of the city, the characteristics of the technology, and applying a methodology we can get to understand what is the best available technology for the implementation of a project of urban circular bioeconomy in the city and the region. But at the end, the final decision, the choice, is for the city and the region. Okay, we have now the first letter of the PDA, that is the project. So now what? Now we have to build up the assistance to develop this project, the Urban Circular Bioeconomy Project, the key element. And here, the first point is that we need to understand and identify what are the requirements of each project. This has been done applying a tree of decisions methodology to understand what were the gaps, the strengths, and the gaps that had the projects that had been chosen, and then sit together in the local hub committees with the cities and the regions and co-design what could be the strategy and the roadmap to make this PDA, what kind of studies will be required, and especially to coordinate between the different parts in the PDA, because this is not only from one sector. It needs coordination from technical part, environmental, financial, procurement. So this has to be very well designed, and especially is that the PDA, it has to be tailored, like this suit that you are seeing here, to each project so that it fits perfectly the purposes to develop the project. Starting with the first part, that is the technical PDA, we need to recognize that the background of HUB had a very strong technical background coming from the mother projects. In this sense, this technical PDA has taken quite a lot of the resources in HUB project on different levels. It's as simple as the answer to this question: does it work? That's the concept of technical feasibility, is to know if the proposal of project that is done by the city and the region works. For that needs a lot of knowledge, that needs a lot of work, in several cases external support from other parts, and it normally implies laboratory tests, experiments on pilot scale in what we call the proof of concept, that is testing what is the proposal on a pilot scale to check if that is working. You can see here both approaches. You can see a laboratory sample of biochar, and you can see also a pilot facility in the University of Savonia in Kuopio. Then another important part in the technical PDA is the techno-economic feasibility assessments. These assessments are done not only to consider if that works, if it is done to have an idea of the feasibility in economical terms, if that is going to take crazy costs or if it is going to give revenues. So this is very important to understand the next parts of the deployment of the project. Another important part has been the environmental PDA. Understanding the studies that have been done to assess the environmental implications of the projects. This is very related with the technical feasibility and with the regulatory feasibility that I will talk. In this sense, we observe that the typical environmental impact assessments are only done for projects that are very, very mature and very, very well defined, which in many cases in HOOP was not the case because in most of the cases we have started the projects from scratch. So what we experienced is that the most requested environmental study have been the life cycle assessments because of several reasons. The first one is to have a hotspot analysis of what are the key points to improve the technology, to understand what are the positive or the negative effects of the proposal of project of the technology, but also considering the applicability of these results of LCA to financing. And this is very aligned with the new European Union taxonomy, with the concept of ESG. This is something that is very connected with the financial PDA. Here we can have some examples from Bergen, where we can see the comparisons of carbon footprint or water footprint of the technologies against competitors in the market. Another part, maybe first step to come to the financial PDA, is the business models PDA. This is very important. At the beginning, it has been done an assessment of the existing circular business models that could be applied to bioeconomy. In many cases, identifying the different elements with tools like, for example, the canvas. And then for each lighthouse, for each project, it has been done a tailor-made business model. We have observed mainly three kinds of business models: the vertical integrated, the joint venture, and the individual entrepreneurship. So that once that the business model has been built, it has been assessed using the HOOP financial model. Then, here comes the most interesting part, is the financial PDA, is how to get the funding or the financing for the projects. This, as you see, it's a long road. It's a long road with several terms, but the first step is to collect the project characteristics and to evaluate what is the maturity of the project in terms of bankability. This with the project maturity level will be further explained later by Jorge. And once that we know what is the maturity, establish roadmaps, see what are the gaps, and establish plans to improve and bring these projects closer to bankability. In many cases, and being very important, to understand what are the risks in the projects through tools so important as the due diligence, and to understand what are the positive effects, like the circular valuation method, to finally arrive to have the pitch with investors so that the project can get that desired financing. From the financial PDA and as main learning from HOOP, I would resume in just 3 words: CapEx, OpEx, revenue. Projects need to have at least these 3 concepts, because if the projects don't have the maturity to have at least these three concepts, these 3 numbers, it is very difficult, or it makes no sense even to start the financial PDA. CapEx, OpEx, revenue, that is one of the key learnings from HOOP. Then, HOOP is oriented to lighthouses, to cities and regions, and in many cases, as being public entities, they need to go through public procurement for making the investments. So we have here a very powerful tool, that is the innovation public procurement, that is providing solutions from the demand side, from the customer side, in this case, the public authorities, the waste management companies, that instead of being technology driven, this is driven by the challenge that has the city or the region. So this is also one of the impacts that is having HOOP is deploying this powerful tool for cities and regions to be used to increase the possibilities and understand the innovative technologies that are for solving their problems. One of the elements that is not a procurement itself is the open market consultation. It's we have two by the moment in Porto and Bergen, and it's done to test the temperature of the market, to send a challenge to the market, a challenge that has the city or the region, and ask technology providers what are the possibilities to do this. And this is a first step. Without it's not binding, to design later a procurement, an innovation procurement that, depending on the level of maturity of the technology, can have different modalities, like, for example, the pre-commercial procurement or the public procurement of innovative solutions. Last but not least part of the PDA is the stakeholder engagement, for which we need to understand very well what is the mapping of the stakeholders. We have used as tool the concept of the biowaste clubs. This is a very flexible concept. We have here a very nice picture of the biowaste club in Murcia, where you put together in the table, in this case, different actors, key actors of bioeconomy to develop ideas, to co-create, to engage them, to promote the projects. Something very interesting that we have observed in HOOP is that stakeholder engagement is not only about raising awareness, increase the separate collection rate. It has much profound implications. I mean, it is very important to have a high quality biowaste for deploying the technologies. This is done through campaigns. This is done through elements like, for example, the citizen science. It is also important to increase the acceptance of the bioproducts, because we are launching to the market brand new bioproducts that sometimes the customers are not used to. So it is important to do this social part, but the stakeholder engagement PDA has gone one step beyond and is connecting directly to the financial PDA. We have had, in two cases, the experiences of two cities that have built their business model using the biowaste clubs as a way to gather the stakeholders and to find a business model, to try to find a promoter and tailor a concept. So connecting the social part with the financial part. This is a very interesting finding in HOOP. So coming a bit to the end, what have we learned? I could spend 2 hours talking about what we have learned in this journey of HOOP, but going into some key bullet points. The first lesson learned is that it is very important to understand the context, especially when we are having a center of the focus the city or the region, is to understand very well what are the context, the economic context, the structure, the ecosystem, and tailor the assistance to each city, each project. Normally, the projects that have been most successful are those that are solving a specific problem or challenge that has the city or the region, because there exists a driving force to make things happen. If the project is solving a specific, a clear problem that has the city, it's very likely that it goes ahead. In this sense, another observation that we have done is that one of the key points for a project to go ahead is to have a very clear project promoter. Sometimes the technology has been identified. Sometimes the lighthouse has acted as catalyst to bring together the different stakeholders. But if there is no project promoter, it is very difficult that things can go ahead. In this sense, as I mentioned before, the biowaste clubs, the stakeholder engagement can even go beyond the citizen awareness and can be used as a tool for finding these promoters and for building a business model. And a key learning about PDA is that the PDA is unwritten. One of the things that we have found when arriving to the projects is that the roadmap we have to write ourselves, tailor for each case, for each city. And something else is that it is very likely that there are changes that can puzzle us continuously. So we have to be very flexible, and we have to be very results oriented to make a PDA successful. Then another thing that we have observed is the high relevance of regulatory feasibility. We have put much the focus on the financial feasibility, but sometimes, and this is one of the risks identified, is the regulatory risk, is that the project needs to be regulatory feasible. It needs to be legal, what we are proposing for that to get the funding or the financing to go ahead. Then the technical feasibility, that is something that we have faced in most of the cases because the projects were starting from scratch. It needs to be ensured that the project works, that the technology works before getting into financial PDA, because otherwise it makes no sense. And this is very demanding in terms of resources, in terms of economic resources, because it needs laboratory tests, pilot tests. It needs a lot of hours of work in human resources. And very important finding is to be very careful with the TRL dumping. What is the TRL dumping? This is that a technology that is very mature for a specific feedstock can drop several levels of TRL if we are changing the feedstock, because it might have not been tested. So this has implications in the technical feasibility and in the technical requirements of the PDA. Then, seeing the public procurement as a catalyst for the implementation of urban circular bioeconomy and innovation. I mean, cities have started being aware of the different instruments related with public procurement to have different alternatives. I mean, we have had, or we are having, two open market consultations to see what are the possibilities to solve specific problems that they have. And then, and this is probably the most puzzling lesson learned, is that from the 15, 16 projects that we have, most of them, they are not treating the urban biowaste directly, because of several reasons, because maybe there is already built some kind of facilities in the lighthouses, or sometimes it's just that the regulations push the cities, the regions, to composting or to biogas. But even though there is that challenge, composting and anaerobic digestion have their side streams, their byproducts. They are not integral ways of treating, and the problem moves there. So here is the opportunity, here is the chance for the innovative technologies to provide new solutions to obtain new bioproducts and increase the circularity. And also, we have observed several projects using a specific biowaste, especially, for example, the used cooking oils. So I could be, I think, more in extra time. If you want to learn more, please join the Urban Circular Bioeconomy Hub. You can have access to the virtual academy with all the public deliverables of HUB. We have also the HUB network of cities and regions for cities and regions to join and exchange knowledge. You have access to different tools that Jorge will explain later. And we encourage you to join us in 2 weeks in Brussels in the HUB Cities and Policy Conference, where we are going to talk a bit longer about the experiences, about the PDA journeys of the 8 lighthouses through HUB. Do it fast. The deadline is tomorrow. And from my side, thank you very much for your attention, and I'm at your disposal for any questions that you have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Miguel Angel. That was a tour de force. You gave us a lot to think about there, and you've done incredible work there across the different cities. So, as Miguel says, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. We're going to gather those and answer them at the end of the webinar. Also, if you're looking for some advice in your city, region, or for your project, as you hear, Miguel Angel has a lot of lessons and experience to share. So you can also ask for some advice for sure. But before that, we're going to pass on to our next speaker. So I'm going to give the floor to Jorge Rodrigues de Almeida, who's founder and managing partner of RdA Climate Solutions. So when you're ready, Jorge, the floor is yours. We can see your screen. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Welcome you all. So I'm with a bit of a cold. I hope that my voice will last through all this webinar. Let's see how it goes. So before going to the work that we are developing on HOOP, I just want to present who we are and why we are doing this. So basically, RdA Climate Solutions is an advisory company. We are specialized in climate change and the topics of mitigation and adaptation. So this will fit perfectly on the mitigation topic. And what we do mainly here is that we try to bridge projects and investors. So we try to bridge the project and the money so that the project can really go and happen. So this is the work that we do daily with different approaches. And for HOOP, we have this challenge of going for circular projects and trying to do what we easily do, for instance, on the energy projects, because the maturity is much higher. So what happens in the market? There is a lot of money available from the financial sector for these topics of sustainability, where circular economy projects are. And there are a lot of projects that are looking for money, but there is a gap in the middle, so they don't fit together. And why is that happens? So I think that it's important for us to try to see the circular projects, especially when it comes to innovation, see them through the eyes of the investor. And what they see if they look a little bit is that this is something that is unknown for them, and everything that is unknown, it's tricky to invest. So they stay back of that project, or they will spend much more time until their decision. And since it's something that is new, there is a huge risk involved, and this is something that investors don't like. So they like to control the risk. They know that all projects have risks, but they like to control the risk. If they don't control the risk, like when you are paying in the casino, in that case, it's really hard for them to invest. And why does this happen? Basically, because circular business models are innovation or are innovative. So there is a lot of innovation here. Every time there is innovation, it's hard to invest or harder to invest. And there are a lot of financial tools or financing tools available in the market, and I will talk about them just after. And so what is needed in the market for projects to go on? This slide, I have been using this slide for many years, not dedicated for circular economy projects, but for sustainability finance or sustainable finance, and to show what is needed in the market. So, of course, it's needed finance. Then we need to develop pipelines. We need to build capacity among everyone and standardization. So trying to be a bit more concrete, we need to develop financing such as equity, soft loans, etc., and long-term project finance such as debt. It needs to be in the market available for everyone. On the other hand, we need to develop the pipelines. So for those pipelines, we need technical assistance, exactly what we are doing at HOOP that Miguel has mentioned before. Also, sometimes these projects have smaller scales, so we need to aggregate them to procurement frameworks. Innovation procurement, so that we are also trying to touch during this project. But the idea here is to bring scale to the projects, so making sure that they are attractive. And then we need to build capacity. and this capacity has to be built on the demand side, on the supply side, but also on the financing industry side. So we need to build capacity among all stakeholders. And there is a key that is the standardization. So we need to make sure that projects are standard. So we need to have standard documentation and standard systems to control the risks, such as due diligence. And I will be talking about that. So basically, in HOOP, what we are trying to do is bridging this gap from the projects developers to the financial sector. And how we do it? So we first gather a group of investors, 20 banks, financiers, and investors that we brought together from venture capital. So usually investors that take a lot of risk and invest in the share of a company when that company is growing, through infrastructure investors such as European Investment Bank, who will invest in big projects, usually infrastructure projects where they have specific revenues. So totally different type of investors. We brought them together and tried to understand what were their needs and how we could develop our projects in a way that will fit their interest. And we have set it up several tools, from networking to evaluation of your project, capacity to learn, so capacity building, and matchmaking. So this is in the HOOP project, so you can go to HOOP project or the hub, and you will find all the tools that I will be mentioned here. So how did we start it? First, we did a state of the art of the technologies and processes that are available. So we understood what are the technologies available. So this is the technical part that was also developed with CETENMA, trying to understand what is available, what are the technologies. But then we gave a further step saying, okay, so we have the technologies, what are the business models that we can use for those technologies? And so we have developed this study about all the business models that could fit here, using Canvas, as Miguel mentioned also, and other tools to make sure that they are understandable by everyone. And then we give another step. So we move for the development of an investment package. And this investment package is basically 3 documents that will help you to understand what are the methodologies, what are the tools, regulations, etc., that are available for you to finance your project. Things as technical screening and how to make sure that your project is aligned with this do no significant harm from the Commission, that is linked with the EU taxonomy. So those types of things are in this document, or these 3 documents, but also financing opportunities. So what is available in the market, financing from private investors, and also funding. What are the funding opportunities, for instance, from resilience and recovery funds? So we try to put everything in one document that could be easy to go through it. Since the document was it became quite large document, we divided in 3 documents with different topics, from the opportunities, financing schemes, to more technical on the EU taxonomy. So you can download the documents in the HOOP hub. You have the links and you will get the presentations afterwards. So you can download the documents and check what is there and check what information is available for your specific project. And then we develop a few tools for self-assessment of projects. So the biocircular label, circular evaluation method, and project maturity level. So those are 3 different tools that serve different objectives. So the biocircular label shows how extent cities and regions are in the implementation of their policies, initiatives when it comes to circular economy. And also we will say what areas you need to improve. So it's a self-assessment for cities and regions. And then we have the circular evaluation method that was developed for companies and public bodies. Try to understand whether the projects that they have in their hands are or not financially attractive. So this is dedicated to them. It's a self-assessment that can be performed by one city, for instance. And then we have the project maturity level. So we are coming from the regions to the companies and now to the project itself. So this project maturity level will assess how your project is bankable or close to the bankability through their maturity. So basically, we have 6 maturity levels. The first maturity level, the names are easy to understand. So the first maturity level is whenever there is a project that has been identified. So we have a technology that can be used there. And then we go to the last one, that is we have all the tendering documents ready and they are ready to be launched the tender or even to sign the contract. So in the middle is where the majority of the projects are. And what we try to do is, okay, we understand that we are in maturity 3. Sometimes we are in some parts in maturity 3, in some parts in maturity 4, whatever. Though that depends on the project. And we understand what are the steps that we need to give to increase the maturity of the project. So you can also assess this through our hub and test your project there and see where you are and what you need to improve. And on top of this, we have developed a due diligence standard. What is a due diligence and what is aimed for? So I will move to this slide and then come back to the other one to trying to understand. So the project has different phases. And those different phases, you need to take decisions and you need to invest in those different phases. If you think about a typical project, there is the part of the permitting. So you need the license for that project. And usually you need to spend some money on that process, but not where the majority of the money goes. Then you go for the contracting, EPC, so everything that involves the engineering, procurement, and go ahead with the development of the project itself. And you have to work on the finance because you need to finance that project. And you then go really for the construction. And then this is where you will absorb more capital. So this is where you need to put all the capital. And last, you will keep on operations with maintenance. So the self-called OPEX, so the investments that you need to do to continuous work or continuous have the operation of the system. And then you will need money also, but you will be generating revenues in this term. So for different phases, you have different risks. If you go back to the process when you are permitting, that's when the risk is higher. So the risk is, of course, lower when you are working because you already know that it works. So for this, we need to understand what are the risks, and this is the work that investors do, and that's exactly why we have developed this due diligence. So the due diligence is the process that you can develop. You can develop yourself or having a company specializes on that topic to develop this to make sure that you are de-risking your project. So during this due diligence, you will see what are the risks of the project and what are the mitigation measures that you need to take on board to make sure that the project is bankable. So this is the process of the due diligence. And why is this due diligence groundbreaking? It's the fact that there is nothing in the market related with circular projects, especially these urban bioeconomy projects. So there is nothing, at least from what we have researched, there is nothing in the market available. So we try to use all the experience from other sectors, such as energy, for instance, where there is a lot of tools, a lot of due diligence process, and make one very comprehensive for this topic. So this process will help you to do the risk assessment and then define the allocation of the risks, because not will all the risks will bear on the promoter, some will bear on the investor, some will be on the developer. So different entities will have different risks, and it's important to understand who has those risks and what measures are expected to be implemented to make sure that you mitigate or reduce the risks. Bear in mind that there is no project without a risk. There is always risks in the project. Could be the easiest project in the world. An investor will always see many risks on that project, because when something can go wrong, it can go wrong. So we have to always have that in mind. So this due diligence process is available also in the HOOP library. So you can go there, download the document, and go through it and understand what kind of risks projects you should think about it. As you will see, this is a very comprehensive document, but the idea is that you select the risks that fit into your project. And if you have any comments, just come back to us so that we can help you on that process. Also, money is important, and so we have tried to put on the HOOP also financing support, so that you can ask us to have support finding a good opportunity for your project. So you have an intake where you can include your project, give some details, and then we will try to help you develop your project to the ground, if feasible, or connect you with one of our investors, wherever is needed. So we will try to help you within the availability and the capacity that we have. But also you can find here links for different opportunities, such as the circular cities and regions from the Europe, that you will find a lot of information about funding that is available, for instance. So coming back to my jigsaw or puzzle that I presented, we have tools that we have developed that cover the majority of these topics in different ways. What we don't cover is the availability of the finance, but that should be covered by the investors and not from a project such as this one. So I'm very happy, because this project, we were able with a consortium to touch on the topics that I've been always mentioning that are needed for this sustainable finance. So now I'm open for your questions, and yeah, just let me know.
Thank you very much, Jorge. Really interesting. We have one first question come in from the audience. How do you find funding for the due diligence process?
It's a good question. Usually, so we have been using here this PDA, this Project Develop Assistance. So that's the way that we present HOOP, and HOOP is exactly that. So we provide this develop assistance for the project. There are other initiatives that also do it, and some have even funding available. For instance, I'm thinking about Elena, Jaspers, or Green Assist. So those are 3 programs that are available in the European Commission, mainly through EIB, so with the European Investment Bank, but they are also not linked to them. So basically, they will provide the expertise, but they don't need to finance, in some of the cases, they don't need to finance the projects. So projects can have a lower scale from the scale of EIB. But those 3 initiatives, for instance, they will provide you technical assistance and sometimes small grants that will help you to finance the due diligence process, for instance. So I'm happy to link you with those initiatives.
Wonderful. Yeah, I don't know, Miguel Angel, if you can join us as well. I had a question, if we have some examples you can give of how the tools that you've presented, Jorge, were then taken up and used in the PDA in the cities, like any specific examples of how that's really supported a project?
So one easy to mention is the project maturity level, because with that one we have covered all the projects, and we have come to the conclusions, for instance, that some were not ready for the due diligence because they were lacking a lot of information. So they were in a low maturity, although in some the relevant thing here is that there is no project that will fit exactly on the 3 or 4 or in a specific number of the maturity, because some projects have a part that is more developed. You can imagine the engineering, all of that is well developed, but then they don't have the business model. They haven't think about the how they will tender that process. So they need to work on that side, but they already have the engineering side, or the opposite. So it depends a lot on the projects, but that tool is exactly the tool that we use to try to go to the cities again and say, okay, you need to improve this. So let's see how we can work together and go ahead. When it comes to the due diligence, that is the process that we are now trying to use bits and pieces. So basically going through this document that is a large document and try to say, okay, let's focus on this topic and try to help the city or the project developer to improve, because there is a risk here that we need to cover.
I don't know, Miguel Angel, if you had something to add on that.
Regarding the tools that Jorge has mentioned, is the project maturity level is the key of everything, because that's the starting point. What is telling you what are the gaps, and actually several times it has been also a starting point to come back into the technical PDA, because as many projects have started from scratch, then the capex, the opex need to be very well worked, very well studied, the revenues also. So there is a lot of interconnection between both the financial part and the technical part. It's a very useful tool to try to reshape the projects and to increase the bankability.
And for now, we have been only talking about the project itself, but also we try to cover feedstock, for instance, whether there is available feedstock and whether there is a market for your product. So there is all the things that you need to think about the project, and then before and after the value chain is also relevant. And that's, for instance, where the due diligence is very relevant. And the question that we have about the business model, if it's already defined, and if you have those financial indicators, it's relevant, because there you show that you have feedstock, you know the price of that, and you know that you will have also a market or an expected market, because sometimes we are talking about innovative products, and in that case there is always a risk, but at least you need to understand what is the size of the expected market that you are applying for.
Yes, I would like to add an example, because as Jorge has mentioned, the supply chain is one of the risks, and is one of the key elements in many of the projects. We have had a couple of projects that had to get down the expectations due to a lack or limited supply chain. So it's very important. For example, in terms of shaping one of the projects, there was one that knowing very well the capex, the opex, provided the minimum capacity that should have the plant to be profitable, and that requires having a higher supply chain. So it's interconnected. In other cases, well, there was another case that we had one of the projects that was thought for one specific feedstock. It was a compost refuse, and finally there were some changes, and the feedstock disappeared. So the supply chain is an important risk. And regarding the market, it's not only from the point of view of finding customers for those products. It's also that understanding the market is understanding what is the regulatory framework of that market, because there are some rules and there are some market sectors that are much more strict than others. For example, in a project for production of biopolymers from used cooking oils, there were possibilities of different market sectors, going to nutrition, going to pharma, or going to cosmetics, and knowing the potential of the market and knowing the difficulties of the regulatory framework, moved and oriented the project to one specific. For example, in this case, it was about cosmetics. So the market, the supply chain, they are key points. Not the only ones, but they are very important. It's a complex work.
Okay, maybe we'll have that as the final word then for the webinar. It's a complex work, but hopefully the tools and the experiences you presented today will help people to navigate slightly more easily this complex world. So I'd like to thank you both very much for your contributions today. It's been really interesting. Like I said, we're going to share after the webinar both the recording and the slides. On the slides, I think you'll find the contact details of our speakers. So if you do have more questions or queries you'd like to share with them, then I'm sure they'd be happy to hear from you. So I'm just going to conclude with another plug for our conference coming up. So yeah, all of these topics we've discussed are going to be discussed more at length in a couple of weeks in Brussels. So you still have chance normally until tomorrow to register to join us there. So the link I've already put in the chat for that one. Also, you're welcome always to join us online on our Circular Bioeconomy Hub, where you can find back all of these different tools and resources that have been presented today. That link I've also put in the chat, or you have here the QR code. And then finally, just to invite you to join us again this time next week. In fact, we already mentioned a few times the importance of stakeholder engagement to this whole process. And we have next week our experts on that topic who are going to explain more about their methodologies and learnings on that topic. So hopefully see all of you back again next week. And with that, I say thank you again to our speakers. Thank you to everyone who's joined us today, and see you again soon. Goodbye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.